Well, it is 4:02. Let's call this meeting to order, and can we have roll call, please?
Megan Markle,
Here.
Samantha Cooley,
Here.
Casey Banks,
Here.
Brady Fail,
Here.
and I have Randy Rickert and Judy Brown absent. And looks like Scott is here, but his laptop audio is not working. But he's gonna dial in by phone.
Do we have any public comments?
No. Right.
And nothing in a waiting room, right?
No. Yeah, so this meeting isn't going to be open to public comments, is my understanding.
Well, then if we take a look at our January 28 meeting minutes, see if there's any corrections there. I noticed that there were some spots where I think the years listed might have
I
been like a
agree.
year off.
There's a number of spots where I've noticed that if we maybe need to go through those sections. The first one would just be the correction of my last name in the roll call is spelled incorrectly. Not a huge deal, but it's correct everywhere else. So thank you, Faye. And then next, I think the next one that I caught as well, Chair Banks, is that would be under the status update for, it says fiscal year 2023 to 2024. Down in the final bullet point, and actually the final two bullet points in there where it says November 14th, 2023. I think that you meant to say 2024. And then April 22nd, 2025, which is the application date we have here. And in 2025 again. The application deadline is April 1st, 2025 and April 22nd, 2025 for review. Is that where you were catching to, Chair Banks?
Yeah.
Same.
We got a new program for creating minutes, so thank you for those notes, and I will make sure that that is corrected and for future that it doesn't happen again.
Oh yeah, no problem. And I think too, for the final bullet on the next section for the status update for the 24-25 year, it would be May 2025 instead of May 2024. And that's all I have.
Any other places where you saw a need for correction?
I didn't.
Okay. And can someone make a motion to approve as corrected?
I'll make a motion to approve as corrected.
Thank you, Samantha.
I'll second.
Megan's a second. So let's do a verbal vote since we can't see Braden. And make sure you're unmuted for this. All in favor, say aye.
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 Just waiting to see if Braden, I didn't quite hear your voice. Did
Sorry.
you want to vote?
I said yeah. I don't know if
You
it's
did.
picking
Okay.
up very well. Sorry.
Zoom technology might also not be the best for verbal, so maybe we'll do a combination of hands and verbal. So that I'm guessing that means no nays. So the meeting minutes are approved. Leanne, would you like to walk us through the updates on the CET notices?
So, it's here already, and we've got 3-ish perhaps applications to consider. The first ones that carry over from last cycle. Unfortunately, I've not been able to reach any of the applicants. There are at least 3 persons from each of the, like representing each of the sort of conglomerate organizations, Catholic Charities, the Wellness Collective, and Edlin and Company. So I've sent out emails. I was in regular communication with them right up through previous deliberations. The main point person, Kate Stokes from the Community Wellness Collective, fell off after the last deliberation with council, and the decision was made that they weren't awarded any fund monies. It was my understanding at that time that they still wanted to be considered for this legacy round. However, reaching out after the beginning of the year, I've been unsuccessful with at least 2 group emails and likewise phone calls during the interim, the last of which was just in the last couple of days trying to reach someone. One of the representatives from Catholic Charities of Oregon, Pooja Dalal, I probably have not pronounced that correctly. I believe she's no longer with Catholic Charities. I got emails kicked back saying that she was not with them any longer. And likewise, Jill Sherman of Edlin and Company, I've not received any correspondence when I've sent out inquiries from her. At a meeting also after the beginning of the year on January the 17th about a different topic, I was in the room with Counselor Yanya Holloman, which, you know, she's with Providence, and I did ask her if she knew what was going on with the project. She said she did not know if it was going to move forward just due to the upheaval associated with Providence and the strikes that were going on, but that she would ask for me. I never heard back from her, and she was included on the last round of emails to reach out to that group. So I will leave it in y'all's hands as to whether you wanted to consider this application, given that all of the contacts that I've tried to engage with have been non-responsive. So that's where that one is.
Thank you.
The second application listed in the memo is Spark Newburgh. Staff did deem that complete. And it's a new project with a new group, and they're applying a combination of approaches for folks that are making 80% or less AMI, combination of creating some new dwelling units, and then a potential for down payment assistance on new homes, combined with educational courses and assistance outreach. And lastly, Newburgh Area Habitat for Humanity has put forth an application. Just one of their projects, they decided to ask for a portion of the $1 million dispersal for the creation of 2 new single family dwellings at 1201 East 5th. So this project is already under permit review with the city. So they're well on their way, but they do have that gap, and that's what they've asked for with their application. So just like last time, staff has done a preliminary review and given some feedback. This is not the final say. It's for the Affordable Housing Commission and then City Council to be the deciding voters on this, but it was just a guide provided in advance of this meeting. So that's what we've included, the application and then staff review for each of the 3 applications. So I would say this is a little bit different in that you're gonna need to deliberate on, okay, Scott says he still doesn't have audio, but is available as needed. So you'll need to be making a determination on who may still be eligible. If folks are still going to be in the running. And then on any of the applications, if a determination or discussion is warranted in your perspectives on whether an applicant may meet the minimum thresholds for consideration of fund monies. So I will turn it back over to the chair to move discussions forward on the applications.
And it looks like Randy just came in to the into the meeting.
All right, who was that joined? Oh, Randy.
Like Randy.
Hi, Randy.
Hi, sorry, I was having some trouble signing in. I apologize.
Glad you're here.
This
Yeah.
is Scott. I'm just testing. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Scott.
We can.
Okay, I'm available as needed. Thank you.
Great. So we have 3 applications before us. There are multiple ways that we could work through this. My initial suggestion is that we go through some like Q&A and try to like answer questions that we have about each project. And if we aren't able to tell from the materials, maybe we can make a list of like pending questions that we can maybe ask Leanne to, is it appropriate, Leanne, to ask you to facilitate those questions back to applicants in hopes that they would have it ready to go to the council?
Yeah, so just some thoughts on that, and I appreciate your thoughtfulness. So staff understands that there may be some questions about this round, and perhaps more information would like to be gathered. And then the unusual circumstance that a previous applicant who requested to be moved forward is now unreachable. So kind of unusual circumstances for this round. So there's a couple of things with that. Everyone was given the same amount of time to get application materials together and supply what was asked for according to the criteria, which was vetted. You know, we all attended that meeting with the mayor and city council about which scoring criteria to apply for this. So, you know, folks would apply and try to address each of those criteria and have the same amount of time to do so. So there's that. And we have applicants, you know, their materials to evaluate. However, we understand that there may not be quite enough. There may be questions with applicants who are going to move forward in the deliberation from the Affordable Housing Commission. That so, you know, you're perfectly within your rights to have another meeting, or if we needed to facilitate presentations, something like that from the applicants that would help you. And again, trying to keep in mind that we want to keep a level playing field for everyone that might be moving forward to have the same amount of time to prepare and the same opportunity to answer questions that you may have. So that's an option as you consider each of the applications this evening. But I'll certainly answer any questions that I can to the best of my ability as well.
Okay.
Chair Banks, I wonder if we should start by trying to figure out the viability of each application, and like if there has been someone that has not met the criteria, that we should no longer be considering them. We just don't waste any time discussing it if the commission feels that way.
Yeah. There's multiple scenarios here. And depending on the one that you go with, it's going to change the other the other way that the dominoes fall
Yeah.
down the road, and that's totally fine and fair. I will be curious if at the end of our conversation tonight, if we want to ask for we might be ready to make a particular recommendation and then still want an extra meeting within a month, for presenters to be available to answer questions potentially. So if does anyone have a preference on taking a look at the staff scoring rubric, the order that we go in? As I'd like a chance to just kind of walk through those together, and especially the threshold, the minimum threshold that needed to be met. So
Yes.
does anyone have a preference on which one we start with?
I don't.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, let's just go in order then. All right. So scroll in your materials, or if you had printed them out, we're looking at the staff one for the Catholic Charities ones, just review. Some of us had reviewed this a year ago, and then some of us are new to the commission looking at this really for the first time. What page number in the document are we at? What's the challenge of navigating?
2, I think it's page 2, at least if you're looking at the full, that huge document.
There we go. Okay, this is the one where at the very top it's CCO, Edlin and Company. Yeah, okay. Okay, so this is the one where we know that multiple efforts for contacting them have not been successful this year. However, the project a year ago, the staff had awarded, I believe it was full points if I'm looking at all the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep, awarded full points, and it had met the minimum threshold. There was just a little bit of a question on number 1, whether the project would be 60 years plus considered affordable. It just wasn't obvious in the materials, but the design of the project leads me personally to think that it would be. But it established minimum criteria there. And the staff recommended up to 10 points for all the ones that 10 was the max, and up to 5 for all the ones where 5 was a max, with a total of 70. And I recall, I think a year ago, the commissioners at that time had also arrived at a score of 70. If we were to assume that we did have contact with them this year, again, that is a huge if, but if we did, does anyone have, I guess, different thoughts on the scoring rubric portion? Did anything stand out that made you think, oh, actually, I would give a different number here?
I'll go ahead. I didn't see anything where I would give a different number in that particular project. So if we have contact with them.
Yeah, if the project is proceeding and, has a timeline that it is somewhat still within the confines of this original application, I have no problem with keeping the same score as well.
And I would agree with that as well. The scoring matrix doesn't change for me. It's all the same.
Any thoughts on that, Brayden, for the Catholic Charities? Oh, I'm gonna get the name wrong.
I agree with all the numbers.
Okay. So we're not necessarily making any recommendation at the moment, but in the past, we did go ahead and give our scoring rubric for each project to City Council. Does that sound accurate, Leanne, that we went ahead and did that? Okay, so at this point, our commission and the staff members are in agreement that this has scored a 70 out of 70. Okay, let's take
Yes.
a look at the next one. The Spark Newburgh. Scroll down, scroll down, scroll down.
It's page 37 if you're looking at the entire packet.
There it is. Okay. Everyone had a chance to find it. Okay, so Sparks staff eval. So there's a lot of maybes in the threshold section, the minimum threshold criteria. And I'm curious on this, Leanne. Like you said, we need to be sensitive to the fact that we've given the same information out to all the groups, and not all of it is here. I'm also aware of the fact that what we know now, do applicants, there may be different information known by time a recommendation does come to city council. So do we go with just what we have available now, or is there an opportunity for people to, I guess, add to their application by time it leaves our hands and goes before city council?
It's my understanding that the process would remain the same as what we did before. So the application deadline, came and went on the 1st. And that's what we have to go by at this time. I would have to defer to Scott about this, if what it would take to, say that the Oklahoma Housing Commission comes away at, I wouldn't say an impasse, but just feeling maybe not confident in making a recommendation, and maybe what the process would entail to do another NOFA. So that, if folks wanted to revise their applications, they could. And
Yeah,
I don't
I'll
know.
jump in here. So I think this is unusual. And of course, you've only had one previous round. So there's not there's only one other data point for how this is done. So with that in mind, I would suggest that if you have questions about any of the proposals that you do, what Leanne had suggested earlier, that you either pose those questions to the proponents, give them an opportunity, all of them an opportunity to respond to your questions, and potentially you could invite them in to present to you. That would be one approach. I think that you do have, it's within your purview, and you can modify the process to get better or more complete information if you see that's, there's some value in that. I would also consider that, these are all different types of projects. They all have different goals and different outcomes. And I think it's very difficult to hold them all to sort of the same, type of data. Like a pro forma for a habitat project is obviously going to look a lot different than a pro forma for a workforce training and development program that's, giving people an opportunity to move into owner-occupied housing. So with all of that in mind, I'd say if you do find that you need more information, or you want to invite the applicants in for presentations, that you do that at a special meeting and schedule it in the next month when you're all available. Other than that, we don't really have any recommendations on process. I know staff really struggled with, this evaluation, of this qualitative evaluation for the eligible, how many points to award, and it's certainly not the last word or a definitive answer on that. This is very subjective, and it's within your purview to find that they're, defined differently. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, thank you.
Scott,
for-
is there the opportunity to move forward and, should our discussions get to this to want to have another NOVA again, or to not recommend the full use of the funds available currently?
It's my understanding, yes, that's within your purview.
I tend to be a very process oriented person. Like I want to go through the process properly and give everyone a chance to like have their say. And I also want to just like jump to my final thought. I'm just gonna say my thought. And I
Mhm.
want to hear what you all are thinking because I don't want to be here for like 2 hours if we end
Yep.
up getting to the same thing. Without any contact on the first application, I'm feeling like we can't move forward on that. And yet I'm very interested in a second round of NOFAs to give more time to allow for that possibility. Because I'm personally just most excited about that first one. The second one, we have multiple project does not meet this criteria. I mean, based on that alone, it feels like we like hands are tied, even if we love it. And I have a lot of questions about how the project would be ran, and I would love to learn more about it over time. But like right now, it's a does not meet. But it might meet our criteria 6 months from now, once there's an actual property identified and some more information there. So I would love to just give both of those more time if possible. And the third one is a very familiar kind of application. It's got way fewer unknowns to me. I don't know if that's because the application is the way it is, or if that's because I just personally have more familiarity with how Habitat works. And they're not asking for the full amount, but eventually we want to deplete our full amount. So there is a scenario where we could award a partial amount to one of the three and then ask for, I guess, a new NOFA round and tell both applicants, to the extent we can tell them, here specifically why and what we would look for and what would lead us into marking the minimum thresholds on this. Yes. So thoughts on that?
I agree. I would like the opportunity to be able to ask, you know, the applicants questions really, and be able to score this a little more accurately. I did have a lot of questions. I originally without knowing that still today we have no contact with Catholic Charities. I agree with the number evaluation, and with the Spark, same thing. I would need some more additional information to score it. Although for me, I scored it a little bit higher than how staff did, but I have a lot of questions before making that definitive answer or recommendation as well. So is this something that we could potentially come back to? Is there a general consensus that we won't hash all this out tonight and possibly have an opportunity to meet in a month with applicants and have a little more information?
Well, there's two different things I heard in your comments. One was meet again soon and have applicants talk about their proposal in the current one. And then the other option is a brand new round of notification.
Right. So it's kind of which one do you guys think is the best course of action? So, I mean, both sound perfectly reasonable. I just feel like I need more information all around.
Okay. Randy, Megan, Braden.
Chair,
Sure,
this is Scott. I'm sorry to jump in, but I think if you're considering the possibility of a new NOFA, that would have to be by direction of the city council. The city council would have to agree to that. So that could be a recommendation, but I just wanted to be clear that that's the decision that the council would have to make.
Yeah, I think my thoughts are similar to those that have already been shared, but I also think it would be unfair to Habitat for Humanity if we feel that they have a very complete application, that they're qualified, that they've more than surpassed the minimum threshold. If we somehow withhold those funds and just start all over again, I think that is unfair based off of you know, the other two applicants, or, you know, one being kind of missing in action. And the other, I mean, yeah, we've got to talk about Spark. You know, I don't know if the rest of you saw that it's the mayor is the chairman of Spark,
I did notice that.
the mayor of Newburgh. And that was not, I feel like that was a little, it was disingenuous to not come forth and say that in the application. To be honest, in my opinion, I'm a little upset about that.
It
That
was
it
in there,
just,
but it is in there.
it's in there. Oh
name
yeah,
of
his
the board of
name's there,
directors.
but it doesn't, you know, it doesn't say that he's currently serving as the mayor of Newburgh and he will be voting on this proposal or removing himself from the vote. So I think that also is concerning to me as just for full transparency with public officials.
Chair, this is Scott again. I just need to jump in because this is something that, staff, of course, has to navigate and be very thoughtful and sensitive to everyone
Absolutely.
and fair so that everyone has due process. And I was assured by the city manager that the mayor would not be presenting if this were to come before the commission as, in a public presentation, and that another representative would speak on their team's behalf. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Thanks.
Yeah.
But
And
Scott,
he's-
that's different than him actually voting, correct? He's not removing himself from voting on.
And that is our advice, and that would be staff's recommendation that in any matter that comes before the council, if the city councilor is part of the team or has an interest, that they would recuse themselves. It's ultimately their decision on whether they do that, but we would strongly urge that they do that. And that would go for any of the council members.
Mhm. My assumption would have been recusal. If that's not a guaranteed thing based on the rules of city council life, then that should be part of the recommendation too, but at a later date, because it doesn't meet criteria at the moment. Megan, my thoughts was similar to you, that we can act on the Habitat for Humanity and make a recommendation on that. And then some other plan for the remaining CET funds. Are you all comfortable moving on to the Habitat application, or do you want to talk more
I got a
about?
question about it.
Created?
If the like how much did Habitat want? Like 300,000?
300 something.
Before.
Yeah,
Three,
so
four.
if they get that 300,000, would hang on, is my mic picking this up? There we go. If they get the 300,000, would that like remaining funds be available to go towards the other applicants later on once they like actually respond, like the Catholic community one or the Catholic charity?
Yeah, and I'll add a little bit of information. So they're asking for a little over 380,000. The CET fund has been gathering interest. So our finance department is tracking that. So we actually have a little bit more than $1 million. Of course, once funds are, awarded to applicants, we'll come to that stopping point and be able to assess interest and where it's going to go, based on who is awarded fund monies. So, but yes, absolutely. I mean, if y'all decided to move forward with an award recommendation for the Newburgh Area Habitat for Humanity for the amount requested, whatever is left in the fund would be available for for another NOFA round, if council is willing to do that.
All right, thank you.
So are we only, this is Judy. Sorry for my lateness.
Judy, welcome.
I didn't get the new link. So I apologize. I didn't get the new link and I finally got a hold of Rachel at the city. So just a question, then if we go ahead and do the Habitat for Humanity, or we haven't even looked at it, but that one, then, and recommend it. So the other two, are they still on the side and they can reapply if they have that opportunity? And will they have to submit a whole new application or just added pieces?
Leanne, does this depend in part on how city council choose to think about it? I mean, is it possible that, again, I don't know how this works, but I could see a scenario where we make a recommendation about habitat and make a recommendation for another round of NOFA, and then city council makes a decision on habitat, and could they choose to operate within the existing NOFA and make a decision about those other two at this time, or would they have to do another NOFA round before taking any action on the other two?
Scott can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's within the council's purview to make the ultimate decision, say at the next meeting. Is that right, Scott? I mean, they would take your recommendation, but they may choose to do otherwise. I believe
Yes.
that's within their
Yes.
purview.
Yes, that's correct.
My thought is the Catholic Charities one meets the minimum threshold. So even though we have had no contact, they could still award that. The second one, the Spark one, because it doesn't meet minimum threshold, my assumption is it's not able to be awarded, but I'm not confident that that's how it would play out.
I think there's some judgment that would come into play here, and the commission or the council could determine that although there isn't any land identified or secured for one of the projects, that wouldn't be a fatal flaw, if you will, because it may be that the final location of a project is, it cannot be determined until funding is secured and in place. So I can see sort of a catch-22 there that we've asked for this information, and it would certainly help the commission in making a decision, having some assurance that these projects can move forward. But ultimately, it's do the projects have good financials? Do they have investors or capital that's available to them? Do they have a model that makes sense from an affordable housing perspective? I think those are the threshold criteria. We've asked for more granular detail on where's the site, or where's the pro forma, this type of financial information. But as I said earlier, each of these projects is different, has a different model, it has different clients or different people it's serving. So I would encourage the commission to make a recommendation, or if you need more information, certainly ask for that. Because I think not making a recommendation is, in fact, a recommendation. And the council will move forward on that with or without that. Yeah.
So there are, it's possible that like one of our recommendations be that the staff respond to the Spark application and encourages them to add the material necessary to meet the minimum threshold criteria. Personally, I think not having the exact land is fine when you're asking money to buy the land, but our rubric says that they have to have secured a purchase option or letter of interest from the seller. So to me, that feels like hands are tied, but maybe that might not be the case. I'm not sure, but that's how I was interpreting the rubric in the minimum threshold section.
I'm not
Yeah,
sure if you want staff response on that. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I agree. It's tricky because, obviously one of the partners or one of the proponents for that Spark project has, extensive land holdings, but they haven't said, where is the land? How is this going to work? Is it even going to be, on Austin Industries property? That's, we can't read into it what's not there. So, that's a question that we have, and we'll take your direction. If you want to investigate these proposals further, we'll do that.
Okay.
Scott
think it-
and Leanne, I have a fundamental question or a basis of when you guys do receive those applications and they check either for-profit or nonprofit or the combination of said status. Do you guys check that status? Like they checked nonprofit? Like, do we have verification that they have an EIN number as a 501c3? Because I cannot find that anywhere online.
That's a great question. We have materials that they submitted. So that is what we have to go with by the due date. So I appreciate your thoughtfulness on that. We have what you have to make your deliberations. So.
Yeah, I do not believe that they currently have nonprofit status as an organization. Doesn't mean they haven't applied, but I cannot find anything. I cannot find a 990 that's been filed. I cannot find an EIN number anywhere. And there's zero financials that they've had a dollar part as an organization yet. Just putting that out there. I spent a couple hours today looking up stuff.
Appreciate the extra research.
It's
Yeah.
important, right? I mean, I think the plan and the idea, I kind of look at it as it's like a business plan without any money behind it. And they're wanting the city to give $1 million to make it happen. Like, I think you got to have some skin in the game. And there's a lot of big names and big players that are part of this organization. It's just lacking. And therefore, again, I don't think it meets the minimum threshold criteria yet for consideration at this point.
It's an interesting concept. It's kind of outside the box thinking.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
I liked it, but I would agree that it stimulates a lot of questions. And in addition to, it would be nice to see if this has worked previously.
I was curious about that too, Randy. Very curious. And it oftentimes will refer to its mission and its values, but then I cannot find its mission and its values anywhere in the application or on their website. And so it talks about criteria, and that were also was interesting for applicants to be part of the program. It talks about criteria that they could use their missions and values to guide the way. And if certain applicants didn't meet those mission and values, that they would not be accepted into the program. And it led me to question, I'm like, I just don't know, could that possibly be not legal given the federal, given this, the state dollars that are given towards this, without having what those mission and values means.
Yeah. So I would love to gather like a list of our questions, and if there's a sense of we're going to recommend like another round of NOFA, then maybe that we can give feedback to the applicants and saying these are the areas, setting the minimum threshold part aside, like that has to be met first, or the rubric has to change, one or the other. Then these are our other questions that would make your application more competitive for this next round, or at least some of the questions. And man, I really would love to have a Q&A with the folks for sure. I want to know why no sex offenders, and if there's any religious education required, since it's partnering with Love Inc. It wasn't in the paper, but it didn't specifically say it wouldn't be. So I don't know. Okay, can we take a look at the habitat one?
Yeah.
Okay, scroll way down. I guess it wasn't too far down. Let's see, page 64
64, yeah.
of the PDF. Okay. So the staff have marked that the habitat application meets all of the minimum criteria. For the ones where it's 10 points, staff awarded the full 10. On number 9, the extremely affordable housing of 30%. Staff awarded 3 of the 5. And any rationale for that one, Leanne? I don't think the typical clientele of Habitat is that extremely affordable housing. So is that part of the rationale?
Yeah, so they, I guess in their history, they have served folks that make as low as 25% AMI, but this particular project is going to be in all likelihood above 30, somewhere between 30 and 50. So that was the only reason for a slight deduction on that one. Otherwise, staff felt like they merited as many points as possible.
Okay, and then all the other, let's see. Yep, number 11 was 5 out of 5 as well. Okay. So open to the commissioner feedback. Any thoughts on the scoring section of the Habitat rubric? Did you have any I guess personal things you would add to our scoring for this one?
I agreed with staff's assessment as well, where they scored a 3, I actually scored a 2, but similar kind of school of thought just on that percentage and who they're meeting, but everything else I agree with.
Mine was the same. I had like 1 on number 9 out of 5, and the exact same rationale.
Yeah.
I agree with the scoring that they did.
I don't disagree with anything, but it's fine.
I have a question. Going back to all 3 of those projects that are being offered, all of them are a little bit different or haven't been done ever before. So are we worried about that, since we're worried about the middle one, the Sparks one, that it's never, or we don't know that it's never been done? Are we worried about the first project, the Catholic Charities, as well as Habitat for Humanity? I mean, this is different than any of their other projects, or has this been done before?
I think that's a fantastic question and really valid. At least for me, I had similar. I just felt like the projects were so incredibly different that it was challenging to score them on the same rubric. So, but that was just me.
That was my big thing, is like they're all 3 so unique and different. And so what's the, I like them all. I like all 3, right? It'd be great to help our community and the people in our community, since it's our community of Newburgh. So how, we know each one is different, but the Sparks one just has had, I didn't hear much about the first one about Catholic Charity, but the middle one questioning, like, we haven't seen it before, or this or that. So I'm just wondering, we know the rationale of Habitat for Humanity, but we haven't seen this project.
Right, and I would actually be cautious.
Any ideas out there?
Sorry to cut you off, Judy.
That's okay.
My computer lagged and it sounded like you paused.
It's okay. I'm trying to have so many things frustrating to try just to get on. So
Fair. So I actually agree, and I had the same kind of thoughts that you did. You know, each one of these is different. I don't want to automatically, Habitat for Humanity, we know what they do. They're a fantastic organization, but not scoring them based on an already bias of some of the other projects that they've done, which are wonderful, and they can make a fantastic impact. This is a great project that they're working on. I just don't know that it has as high of a potential impact as Spark or Catholic Charities. But again, we need more information, or I do.
Well, and I think in some way we're trailblazing a little bit, right? I mean,
Right.
we've never had this before. We've never had funds of this magnitude before. So we're looking at legacy type projects, and our I think the way we've designed the rubric was really more of a traditional type of project, and so these three that came in are different. So we do need to look at them differently. I think we're doing a good job at it. Circling back on the habitat one, and I keep coming back to that one because in the spirit of the CET funds, in my opinion, and what I heard when the city council wanted to end the CET, was that they wanted these funds to be available immediately to help the affordable housing in the community. And the habitat one is the only one that really does that, depending on your definition of immediate. The Catholic Charities one is a great project. They have spent so much time and money and energy into it, so it was disappointing that they didn't follow through, but it still isn't a quick project. It's going to take a lot of time to get that up and going, and of course everything that's going on with Spark, there's a lot of questions on that one. But this habitat one, to me, is I think their application said they're ready April 2025. They only have a few days left.
Yeah.
It's ready to rock and roll. So that's kind of where I'm at with habitat. Is I like it. It just goes with the whole spirit of what we're trying to do.
Yeah. And I'm not interested at all in penalizing novelty. Like, just because it's new,
Mhm.
that's not a problem. But when something's not familiar, you just kind of want to make sure it's all the ducks in a row kind of thing. We absolutely could fund the habitat request in full or partial and still have a very substantial chunk of money to award to another one down the road as soon as someone gives us something that we can, wholeheartedly say yes to.
Right.
And like, my hope is that the Catholic Charities one didn't contact us because they have all their funding secured somewhere else. Like, that'd be best case scenario, right?
Yeah. I think all three of them are such valuable projects within the city. And I'm trying to evaluate this as thoughtful as possible, just because of the varying levels of impact. The Catholic Charities one it meets a need that's not currently being met within the community. And with the Spark as well, that's meeting a need within the community. Habitat for Humanity came in strong, and it's a little bit different than what they've done before, and it offers some immediate impact, as Randy said. I mean, I'm gonna listen to your recommendations and kind of move forward, but I really I think that we could go either direction in making that recommendation for the award for Habitat for Humanity, and then asking City Council if we can come back and revisit the remaining funds.
Leanne, can you convey to City Council that the staff awarded 68 out of 70 points for the habitat application, and our commission awarded, if I did loosey-goosey math, 67 out of 70 points?
I'm sorry, you broke up on the last.
67 out of 70 points. Just to acknowledge.
Okay. So for I'm just gonna do a feedback loop with you. So Affordable Housing Commission has awarded points for the Habitat for Humanity project in the amount of 67 out of 70, and staff awarded 68 out of 70.
Yes.
So,
And you might draw their attention to the number 9 rationale, that it was all for the same reason. That they do number 8 really well, and occasionally they do number 9. So those numbers plus the 70 from the Catholic Charities, that's information we can give to the city council, as this is how we've scored it. How does the commission feel about recommending that we not make any awards to Catholic Charities at this time, but would welcome their application again in a future NOFA round?
I would agree with that.
I align with that too.
Unfortunately, I agree, and I would love to see this project move forward, but just based on, the contact and information that we have at this time, I would agree with that.
I would agree with that. This is their second time, so it'll be a challenge to do the third time, but
Well, Judy, in full disclosure too, this was rolled over, correct, Leon? Yeah, so they did not apply a second time, and that actually is another question I have, of if that is something that traditionally happens from staff to do that, or is that something you always ask, like when there's these couple of rounds, like, and maybe it shouldn't be what we do in the future? I'm asking Leanne what you think about this whole.
but they didn't reapply.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
right. So with their original application materials and through email correspondence, they confirmed with staff that they wanted to be considered for the legacy round in addition to that initial award. So, and I don't, there's nothing in our criteria that says that they can't ask if we're going to have multiple rounds. This was sort of almost a surprise decision by council. The mayor was sort of driving that vote for bifurcating funds. And so staff didn't anticipate that. So that's what we moved forward with, was that decision by council to have that legacy fund set up. So when applicants did apply after that was made public, Catholic Charities, that group, made it known that that was their intention to be considered for the second round as well.
So could I get a motion that we recommend the city council not award any funds to the Catholic Charities one at this time, with an open invitation to them to apply again in another round, something like that?
I second what you just said.
Thank you, Judy.
We actually need a motion and then a second.
Yes, Judy, will you make that motion?
Yeah, I move that we recommend to the city council that the Catholic Charities application be allowed to, that's not the right wording. Give me some more wording, help me out.
Considered.
Be awarded funding at this time?
Yes, not to have funding at this time.
I second.
Thank you, Megan. Did we capture adequate wording on that to give to city council?
I believe so. Would you like to formulate something for the Spark application as well?
Well, we haven't voted on it yet. I just want to make sure we have wording that we're voting on. Okay, because I believe our city recorder uses the video to take notes, so we probably don't have that in writing. Faye,
I
do you
wrote it down.
confident that that is adequately worded at this point?
Yes.
Okay, then can I have a vote? You can raise your hand for yes, or you can verbalize yes. So all in favor?
Well,
For
actually, you
yes.
need to do a roll call vote. Like
We
I
can
have
do
to,
that. Yeah,
it's just the minutes that you don't do roll call and then other items you do.
okay. Who will facilitate our roll call vote? Is that you, Faye?
Yes, it is.
Okay, please lead us in that then.
Okay, Megan Markle,
Aye.
Samantha Cooley,
Aye.
Randy Rickard,
Aye.
Casey Banks,
Yes?
Judy Brown,
Yes.
Brady Fail.
Yep. Did I pick up? I said aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. So that's
Motion passes.
carried. So, habitat, let's talk habitat. Okay. So we're sharing with the council our scoring of 68 and 77, sorry, 67 out of 70. They have asked for, again, what was that number? 300.
380,615.
Okay. So we have three choices. We can recommend 0. We can recommend the full ask, or we can recommend something in between.
I think we should recommend giving them all the money, 380,000, what they're asking for.
And I would agree with that.
I agree with that. And given what happened with our first round, I can propose a motion later if you guys agree with this, but I wanted to discuss it with you first. With our first round, we had 2 applicants, Samantha, and Braden, since you weren't here before, last year. We had 2 applicants. One was the Catholic Charities, and one was Yamhill County, Housing Authority, right? We had gone in and recommended like full for Yamhill County and a little bit, right, like a little bit left over for Catholic Charities. And instead they awarded all to Yamhill County and then some. And then they went above the amount. They gave it all to Yamhill County, even though it was more than they'd asked for. And so I would propose that, given our situation of not giving away the entire $1 million, that we propose fully funding Habitat, but also saying, and not going above that, whatever the right wording would be, like in
So-
order to preserve another Nova or more consideration on other applications.
So capping their giving at their
Capping.
full ask.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would be, so that way we can really have more of a legacy piece, right, down the road.
Right.
With some of the other funds would be kind of what I would love to see. What do you guys think about that?
Absolutely. That was actually one of my questions that I had coming into this meeting, was, would we have that opportunity to be able to potentially do that? Award to, something like a Habitat, Catholic Charities, whichever one we decided. And then if there was potentially something left over, having that cap so that we could fund one of these fantastic legacy pieces.
Of course, it
Sure.
always is council's decision, right?
Right.
It is.
But
Obviously not binding.
we can be more specific in our recommendations if we feel that way as a group.
Right.
Yeah, it never even occurred to me until that last.
I know.
round that
I
you
didn't
have to
either.
say that. Like if I was applying for a grant, I would never expect to receive more than asked for. However, it went to a great cause and that's all great. Yeah, I'm in favor of including in our recommendation the dollar amount, and we recommend not going above that because we want to preserve the remaining funds for what can be one of these maybe higher density impact legacy, whatever we call it, projects. Where we have multiple things like in the pipeline, they're just not quite ready yet for this particular grant.
Do we have the opportunity to maybe only do partial? I mean, since we don't I mean, if we had 10 applicants, then we could divvy up the dollars differently. But since we only have really one that we're looking at, and to award the full amount, just because it's just one, or do we look at the application and say, well, it's only going to cost $250 to really put it all together, and they're asking for this, this, and this, or we just want to recommend to fund it? Because I'm just looking at one piece of the land, and it's like $233,000 plus the sale. I have no problem just giving all the money away. It's because money, but
I was thinking along the same lines, Judy, of like, well, what if we gave 200 or 250? And I kind of landed on, I have no good reason for that. Like it's kind of that, bird in a hand, two in the bush kind of thing. Like we have this project that's ready. We have money we're trying to spend. And yeah, we could preserve even more of it for a future project that's still just a pipe dream at this point.
or other pipe dream. Yeah. Or other.
Right.
Yeah.
Or opening it up potentially for other applicants in another round so that we can see some other potential projects.
It's totally possible. Yeah.
I'm looking at, I don't know, page 108, and it talks about homeowners base of 233,850 and appraisal market value and some of that pieces. But I also don't want to make it more complicated, because again, it goes back to maybe we recommend to the city council that they fully fund it, but no more. So at least we know that we aren't spending more money, and we have that amount.
Mhm.
Then we can see this project through and know that we as affordable housing, we are helping push this through
Yeah.
the whole project.
Yeah, I think in my opinion, if we don't fully fund this, then this project could be delayed, that they're going to have to go and find more funding to do it. At least that's how I'm reading their budget a little bit. I still think the project's going to go, but it just wouldn't be immediate.
That could be.
Yeah, I think they're great partners, right? They're great local partners in our community, have been wonderful to work with. And I think it's a solid proposal, and it's very specific in its funding. And it's not just saying we want $1 million. We want, they're being very specific and thoughtful that they want to help fulfill this project at $380,615.
Right.
And I think they are worthy and deserving of that.
I would agree, as I'm just scanning through, don't mind me, multiple screens up, but scanning through their particular project. And my recommendation would be the same, that we fully fund this particular project and then cap that at no additional. And hopefully that language is recorded appropriately, our recommendations for city council, that we revisit this.
I've heard from 4 of you. Braden, do you have anything you want to add to this dollar amount for Habitat? How you feeling?
I would agree that to fund them fully, but not go above it. That way we can keep some more of that money for possible future what was it?
Projects.
Projects,
Any
yeah.
of the potential legacy projects or any.
Yeah, because if like Catholic Charities, responds and we can get in contact with them later on, or any other possible projects that would seem good for the remaining funds. I mean, I think that'd be the best idea.
Okay. Thank you all. I'm of the same mind. So can I get someone to start wordsmithing a motion out of this? Oh, Megan, I saw your face. Take a stab
I'm like,
at it.
yeah, I always come up with these suggestions and then I can't like figure out what the right wording is. Um, if anybody else has got it, feel free.
Sure. I mean, I'll give it a try. I'll make a motion to fully fund the request for the application for Habitat for Humanity, the dollar amount. However, a recommendation is that we cap no additional funds be awarded to them beyond their application request.
I second that.
Is there some like if we said exactly $380,615, if that's the right number, and no more, so that, and then add the second part.
Okay, so let's get the exact dollar amount. Does anybody have that for me? And then I'll reformulate that 300 and
380,615.
Yep.
1, 5. Okay. So I would like to make a motion that we fully fund Habitat for Humanity at the 386.15 and cap for no additional funding for that particular project. That way we can look at some other potential applicants and revisit this for possibly some legacy projects or other applications.
Great. I heard a motion.
Or second it.
Thank you, Judy. Okay, let's do a roll call vote on this one.
Megan Markle,
Aye.
Samantha Cooley,
Aye.
Randy Rickert,
Yes.
Casey Banks,
Yes.
Judy Brown,
Yes.
Brady Fail.
Yes.
Hey. That was our second recommendation. Regarding the Spark one, we could recommend no funding, but I'm wondering if it's more appropriate to just give a statement. Like, I don't know if this is a recommendation, but more like a declaration that staff found it to be not meeting the minimum threshold criteria at this time. And then make a third recommendation of we recommend that the city council do another NOFA round that either, like the rationale is that either gives them time to become in compliance or any project to participate in that, or council might want to amend the criteria. Like that's another possibility.
And I hadn't even considered that, the potential to amend the criteria, just with them being so incredibly different, right?
Mhm.
Huh.
If we like the idea of giving a group money to go buy land that they haven't gotten real like close to firm on yet, maybe our recommendation could include that council consider revising the criteria to allow for that possibility. that's still not binding, but it would be a little bit more breathing room in the criteria.
And then opening up an additional round. Sorry, I'm taking notes so that one of us can make a motion.
Yes. I think where we are is like just a statement that the Spark application does not currently meet the minimum threshold criteria, and therefore no funds should be awarded at this time.
And then period, I say,
Period.
like, let's keep
Period.
it, I think I really like to keep this one tight.
Okay,
Like, yeah, if we could, just on this one, and then again, there we can talk more about the other. I think it's just important to go on record that we don't believe that it met the minimum criteria, and thus far should not have any funding awarded, because they could still do that, right? They could still decide it meets the minimum criteria, but at least we've gone on record saying
Okay.
at this point, we don't believe it does, that, you know, something like that, right?
yeah,
In order to help maybe spur along possibly that there could be another NOVA
yeah.
or
And-
a reconsideration in some way, you know, for another round for
And then
legacy
just a
projects.
separate recommendation to have another NOFA round
For legacy funding.
for legacy funding projects, yeah, that
Okay.
may or may not include any revisions to the rubric.
You know what? I think that's actually a really good idea. And Megan, I really appreciate you saying that, you know, putting that period behind it so that we're scoring this based on the information that we have, fairly based on the
Mhm.
information that we have, and then making our recommendation for opening up. And that's a separate motion
Separate issue.
completely. So we're, instead of, because it would potentially appear that we're giving Spark an unfair advantage, and you know, come back to us and we'll give you funding, right? That it could appear that that's what we're stating, and
Which is
rather
exactly what happened last year with Catholic Charities. And they didn't come back to us.
right. So, you know, it's just Catholic Charities right now. We made the recommendation not to fund them. Spark, make the recommendation not to fund them, and then we'll make a separate motion for our other thought process
Yeah.
for a legacy project.
I would even be like more blunt on the Spark one that we cannot at this time
Okay.
because that it's not meeting the minimum threshold.
Right. And, you know, I mean,
Yeah, that we determined that we can't.
right.
Not that we don't want to.
Well,
a separate issue.
exactly. I read the project. It sounds absolutely fantastic in theory, but it doesn't meet that scoring, you know, criteria. So maybe that needs to change, but either way, just based on the scoring rubrics that we have in front of us to keep everything fair and on that, you know, even playing field, it unfortunately doesn't meet the criteria. So no. And I'll make a motion for that now, if we're all in agreement of that.
Motion, make the motion.
Okay.
All right, I'd like to make a motion that we not fund the Spark project based on not meeting the minimum requirement criteria at this time.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Let's put Randy's name in there.
Yeah, put Randy. Randy.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Megan Markle,
Yes.
Samantha Cooley,
Aye.
Randy Rickard,
Yes.
PC Banks,
Yes.
Judy Brown,
Aye.
Brady Fail.
Yes.
Okay, that carries. I believe if I'm tracking right, I think we have one more recommendation to make, which is regarding putting out another NOFA round with or without revisions to the rubric. And I don't know if this should be part of a recommendation, but I kind of feel like we shouldn't punt this a year away. Like, I feel like this should be
This summer?
publish it as soon as realistically possible. If there's going to be a revision to the rubric, that'll take more time. But to expedite this and not just assume, okay, this is a 2026 kind of NOFA thing. Just assume that it's a year away.
Yeah, I would agree. And I would agree with Judy, you know, that we revisit this in the summer. So that we're voting on this in the summer.
Leanne, can we put the language maybe just in it that we recommend it be done as soon as possible? That is still done in like a fair way and legal way for sure.
Right.
But express our sense of like, we don't want this to be 12 months down the road.
Yeah, I think we'll have to look at the calendar. I know that we're already booked up for, I think we're already going into summer months for the city council calendar. So that may be what we need to be working with. So I would, you know, suggest making a recommendation for like a first available date or something like that.
Okay, there we go. First available, and is it, what is it that's the first available date? Is that room on their agenda? Is that the NOFAs get publicized?
So and Scott can jump in here, but we'd be bringing all of your recommendations to council at the first available meeting that we can get on. And they would hear your recommendations and then consider per your last, this is number 4, per your 4th recommendation, you know, if they're gonna be agreeable to posting a 3rd NOFA round, and if so, when. So then they would direct, if they're agreeable to that, then they would direct staff to craft that. And they may or may not want another meeting for that to approve it. They might just say, you know, get that up by. So that's at the council's discretion, but we would just have to have time to craft the language for that NOFA and get it posted in the, you know, next available slot.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that would work with our next quarterly meeting, which they may find that.
I think we're July 22nd is our next meeting.
Yes, it is. If they're going to ask for revisions to the criteria, we should ideally know that and be working on that at the July meeting. And then maybe it could get posted whenever the dominoes line up. Yeah.
I guess really the only recommendation that we can potentially make, right? Because we can't set those hard and fast timelines anyway. But the recommendation is just at the soonest available. So soonest available getting on city council's agenda, and then soonest available for posting the next round of funding. Does that make sense? Sorry.
Sure. And I don't know if the commission wants to maybe crystallize more thoughts around updating scoring criteria. I will just remind folks that this application scoring criteria was vetted with both the Affordable Housing Commission and the mayor and city council prior to any NOFA posting, and it's what we've used in the previous rounds. So I would urge you to consider any sort of revisions and what sort of ripple effect they may have, and if that advantages one applicant over another in the future.
Okay.
The timeline
that's
would be faster with no revisions. I'm just wondering if if
Well,
they're going to ask for that, that we know sooner than later, kind of a thing. And we don't have to even mention that part. Like if we're just asking for another round of NOFAs, we can, I don't know if we re-recommend the materials or not, or if maybe our recommendation is that we announce another NOFA using the existing one. Like maybe they can make that decision at the next meeting that you're on the agenda, that they agree at that point to use the existing one and speed it up that way. And they may not want to speed it up at all, and that's fine. That doesn't benefit us in any way. It benefits the existing applicants. And we're not under any obligation to do that for anyone's behalf, really. Gosh, I just know that when we get a lot of momentum on something, that it just kind of stinks to have to wait 9 months for.
The next round.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Well, then maybe just our recommendation, leaving out the changes in this scoring rubric, and with what Leanne said, this was vetted by the Affordable Housing Commission, by City Council. You know, there's so many steps in changing that scoring. And ultimately they can make that recommendation during the City Council meeting themselves, understanding some of our questions and concerns. But, you know, just that we have another round and making simply that recommendation at the next available time.
Yeah. And in theory, you know, if the people from the Catholic Charities one start communicating again, the council could, in theory, award the remaining money to them, and then there's no need for another NOFA. Like there's
Right.
other decisions that could impact our fourth recommendation.
So I would just simplify it in, you know, our recommendation is that we have another round of NOFA to the City Council, and I'm trying to find my words, but just leaving it at that, the next available date. That's our recommendation.
Yep. For remaining funds. Yeah.
Correct.
Did you officially make that motion, Samantha?
I would like to officially make that recommendation.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Yay. All right. I think everyone has seconded something this, or at least we're spreading the love. Great. Roll call vote, please.
Right, Megan Markle,
Yes.
Samantha Cooley,
Aye.
Randy Rickert,
Yes.
DC Banks,
Yes.
Judy Brown,
Aye.
Brady Fail.
Yes.
Okay. We did some good work just now. Does it feel like anything from the CET applications is still lingering? Or have we done all the things we want to do tonight regarding CET applications?
I think we've covered everything.
Okay. Well, next thing on the agenda, items from commissioners. Leanne, I've kind of forgotten what this section is. This is relatively new in our agenda template.
Yeah, so it's just an opportunity if there are some topics of interest or recent events or upcoming events that any of the commissioners would like to share about, if there's any ideas that you may have. I know that we had some conversations in previous meetings around sort of idea generation for other ways to impact our community with affordable housing opportunities. And if you wanted to share anything about that, this would be the time to do so.
Anyone have anything they'd like to share?
Nope.
I do not.
I don't.
Leanne, I would love if you could let us know when you do get on the council for presentation of this. Do you have an idea? I know last meeting you thought you might be able to get on for May, but maybe that's already booked up, it sounds like.
So I think we're looking at June. I have another item that I think I had to schedule for June. So I'm guessing it's going to be between June and July. I would love for it to line up with our next quarterly meeting and have it be easy like that.
Yeah.
And I'll certainly try to do that. But of course, I will keep everyone posted. I know that this was probably a more challenging deliberation than our previous ones. So staff really appreciates your thoughtful consideration and your deliberations. I know it's not easy. And if we had all the money, then we can give everybody awards and create more affordable housing for our community. So I really appreciate y'all. Thank you so much.
We appreciate your thoughtfulness
Yeah.
and attention to everything. So thanks for doing what you do.
Well, our next meeting, July 22nd, 4 o'clock by Zoom.
Do we have the rest of the meetings for the rest of the year as well? Are the dates? I don't believe I've.
Fairly rhythmic. Yeah, what's after July?
Usually in October, right? October.
My guess, no?
Don't the city,
We'll
they,
post them, but we have July 22nd, October 28th.
yeah, it's already,
And then it looks, oh yeah. That's the rest of the year.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Perfect.
Well, I know at this time that I have a conflict for October 28th, so I doubt I will be out of that early enough to attend. So I think, Megan, you've got some time to prepare for that.
And
Alright.
I hope that I'm there for July. I don't have my dates hard and fast, but we should be in Italy sometime in July. So maybe I'm joining you from Italy and
Ooh,
maybe I'm not.
That's exciting.
Depending on the time difference, we'll see how that goes.
At the July meeting, I'm most likely going to be in Alaska.
alrighty. Leanna, I want to say thank you again to you and your staff for doing all the work to check out that minimum threshold thing. This is the second time that we've had that gift from staff, and that has made this process so much easier to do. So thank you for that, and just appreciate the work that you all are doing on this.
yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, 5:35. I always
Okay.
forget we have to
We
vote on
adjourned?
this one,
Are
or
we adjourned?
we're adjourned.
Yay.
Yeah. See ya.
Have a great night.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.